Investors globally are paying much more attention to impact investing as we all become much more environmentally and socially conscious. Well, I'm lucky enough to be joined now by Dato Feisal. We're here. Now, Dato Feisal is the Managing Director of Khazanah Nasional Berhad, which is Malaysia's sovereign wealth fund. Welcome.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, it's a real pleasure. Now, you've sort of shifted your focus slightly in that you're much more aware of impact investing as it stands today.
Yes.
You created a new division to look at impact investing just last year, but you've been working on that prior to that. Tell us a little bit about that.
Sure. I mean, when you look at Khazanah's mandate, we actually carry two mandates, the investment, so we are an investment house, but we also have a developmental role. So when we actually look at developmental, there's many things. We actually developed a lot of southern part of Johor, and some parts in Penang, etc. But I think in coming up with a new method, now we actually looked at impact investing because it's another form of actually creating impact to society while still having a catalytic role in terms of the nation's development. And what we're doing as an impact fund is we're not doing everything ourselves. And that's the beauty of having an impact fund, because you actually create coalitions, you work with other people, whether it's civil society organizations, whether it's other companies or other funders, and you collaborate to actually let everyone marshal to look at a particular impact objective and then put it together. So yes, it's another mandate of ours, but it's a very effective tool in my mind to actually create that change within the country, having that impact fund.
What sort of response are you getting to other investors around you and to those that you want to collaborate with?
Oh, great.
Yep.
I think the wonderful thing about it is when it comes to collaboration, there are either entrepreneurs that also see a philanthropy side to it, and they have some through their foundations doing something. We have our foundations. But when we actually look at investing, there's a financial return, but no one necessarily measures the impact component of it. And we're introducing that as well. So you have to measure the impact component of it. And we're learning from each other. We're actually learning not just within Malaysia, but we're also through our partners internationally, for example, all the general partners in private equity, they're also going into impact funding. A lot of organizations that are looking at measurement of impact, and we're actually collaborating that as well. Not just Malaysia, Singapore as well, they do it as well. So we're learning for that, and everyone is actually very, very excited by this.
So what does that look like in terms of impact and measuring impact? Because to your point, it's a topic of discussion at the moment. It's probably the one side of regulation that's almost been left behind as this growth in impact investment has come about. How will you measure the impact?
Well, that's actually a very good thing, because I'll give you an example. So in Dana Impact, our impact fund, we actually have certain sectors or pillars that we focus on. So one of them is, increasing the household income or perhaps giving protection to the underserved. It's a combination. So we made an investment this year, actually quite recently, into an insurtech, and they can actually deliver insurance to gig workers or the under or even unserved community. And when we say measure, it's actually applying like impact management programs, the IMP5. We actually came up with our own methodology, actually, which is really taking on what other people are doing around the world, but contextualizing it to local sentiments. And with that, we measure, for example, employment, or how many people are covered. We measure what happens after they're covered. Or, for example, if you give protection to a gig worker, a ride-sharing rider, for example, and he's out of work, and then what happens then to his family while he's actually out of work. So there's a lot of things that we can measure, and with that we have to look at it in terms of reaching how many lives for that as well. We do it for education, and not just giving scholarships or stipends for vocational training, but we also have to track what is the level of income subsequent to getting employment as well, and that's how we measure it.
So that measurement level, is that the G in the ESG?
It is. I think, first of all, you have to be able to quantify it, you have to be able to measure it, and you have to continue to monitor it. Now, in the past, when measurement was great, you're absolutely right, because it's very difficult. We say, we're going to make an impact, but then how do you ensure the governance aspect of it is actually taken into account? How are you going to make sure that that impact actually is realized? So it becomes so key now And again, we strive to innovate around the measurement tool as well. It's as important as the investment itself.
So we're here today, Dato Feisal, at the AVPN conference here in Kuala Lumpur. You are doing the keynote. What are you going to be telling the attendees here at the conference?
We're going to be sharing our experiences in our journey in impact investment. Now, we're quite unique in the sense that we are a sovereign wealth fund with a dual mandate, but we also have a strong foundation, which is Hasana, who's also the host for this year's event. And Hasana is a grant-making foundation. So they actually have a bird's eye view of all the civil society organizations in the country as well. So imagine that you have us as an investor and you have Hasana as a philanthropy looking at what's happening around the ground. So what I'm going to share is our journey of how we've actually looked, our learnings, our highs and lows in our journey, and then the experiences that we have. And first of all, it's coalition. We have to build coalition in anything that we do. The other thing is whatever solutions that we have in terms of funding, we have to change. So here we have to have creative solutions where we look at the continuum of capital and try to bring philanthropy into public-private partnerships. So it becomes 4 Ps, public-private philanthropy partnerships. Another thing that we have to look at is measuring. We have concrete measurement tools. And lastly, it has to be relevant. Now, quite often the investors, probably work in towers, but philanthropy organizations, they're actually down to the ground.
On the ground.
And you have to be able to contextualize what you're doing and to actually measure the impact so it's real. So that's something that I'll be sharing tomorrow.
Okay. All right, Dato Feisal, it's been such a pleasure to talk to you today.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure.